Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen out there, and that is dependent upon what part of the world that you are this afternoon, or well, at this moment. For us over here in Nigeria, it is a good, warm afternoon, and I would like to begin by appreciating you for agreeing to come online with me at this time. So, thank you for your precious time. Thank you for being with us this hour. And we do hope that having come with us, um, we would have a wonderful time in enjoying this broadcast. Now, at this time, I would like to um, thank all those who have also been with me all the while, who have been enjoying the broadcast and have been enjoying the several topics that we've been trying to pass across to everyone out there. I know that it's not been easy, particularly at a time like this when things seem to be at a crunch or everything seems to be at a standstill. 2020 is happening in a way that nobody envisaged, nobody anticipated, and hardly did anybody plan for the way that 2020 is going. And because of that, I do realize that a number of us may have been destabilized, may have been confused or caught up in the web of what the year has turned out to be. But let me encourage you to say that everything will fall in place because all things work for good, for everyone. Eventually, it may be something that you do not understand yet, but eventually everything will fall in place. Like I've always said, I'm a firm student of the Bible, and I believe in that particular word that says that all things work together for good to them who love God and are called according to his purpose. All right? So that's why I have a full and strong conviction that 2020 will turn out to be the way that it ought to have been for a number of people. In fact, it will turn out to be better than we ever anticipated that it would be. Okay? And it is based on that that I am led to teach this topic, to talk on this topic, finishing strong. Of course, we will not be able to complete or say all that may be required or necessary for me to say as far as this topic is concerned. But I will tell you this that finishing strong is the best way to finish. The year started on a rough note for so many of us. Even till the tail end of the year, everything seems to be looking hazy. But I can tell you, you can finish 2020 better, you can finish 2020 stronger than the way that you began. If only you would apply some of the and some of the strategies that I have outlined out here for every one of us to take a look at and to be a part and parcel of. So, if you are in agreement with me, I'll just welcome you, thank you, and appreciate you as you make your comments, as you engage with me through the comment sections, where you're watching now, whether on YouTube or on Facebook. Now, just do well to pass on your comments. I will look at them. If there are questions, I'll also try to respond to the questions or throw it out for others out there to be part and parcel of and to learn from the questions. Then, as this broadcast goes on, you'll see at the scroll bar our contact addresses or our email address as it were and phone number by which you can relate with me or you can relate with the organization and you can make contacts if you want training for your organization, if you want training for your family, if you want training for schools or hospitals or wherever you want this leadership training to extend to, you will do well to reach us by those contacts, and we will gladly and willingly, as far as our calendar will allow, to make arrangements with you to come and share this, come and discuss these things with you. So today we're going to be talking about finishing strong, and I'm hoping that as we talk about finishing strong, that a number of us will relate with what it means to finish strong. Okay, I'm going to begin with the story of a man called John Stephen Akawari or Akwari, depending on how what the pronunciation is. A number of us may have known about him. Some probably didn't know about him, but he has such an inspiring story that I think that if you want any story about how to finish strong, or if you want any lesson about how to finish and to finish strong, that you get to read Stephen Akawari's story to understand what he did in 1968. Now, John Stephen Akawari was well, he's a Tanzanian and was is a Tanzanian, a marathon runner. And in the 1968 Olympics held in Mexico, Akawari was sent by his country, Tanzania, to be in Mexico to represent the country for at the marathon race. Now, he was amongst those who were considered to be favorite for the gold medal of that race. And he also came with that belief and strong conviction that he was going to not only participate in the race, but he was going to finish strong and probably finish on the medals table as far as his country was concerned and as far as that race was concerned. Now, the race took off. There were about 57 contestants in that tournament, and along the line, it was supposed to be a well over 40 kilometers race, but by the 19th kilometer, Stephen Akawari had a trip. Someone tripped him off, and he fell down, and in falling down, he hit his shoulder on the curbs and had a serious bruise on the shoulder. That wasn't the worst of it. He had a dislocation on his knee. He had a sharp cut or a deep cut on his knee, and he also had a dislocation on his knee. Now, if you look at this picture, you will see Stephen Akawari with you see him with a bandage on two sides of his legs or of his knee. Now, so he slashed the knee, then he had a dislocation on the knee at the 19th kilometer. That would have been a perfect reason. That would have been a perfect excuse for John Stephen Akawari to have stopped running. But of course, he was taken aside, he was treated, and then as soon as he got treatment, he jumped back onto the road and continued his race. He continued running for the remaining space or time that they had to run, or the remaining distance that they had to run. By the time that it was the race had finished, Stephen Akawari was 1 hour behind the gold medalist of that race. But what is interesting is the fact that Stephen Akawari did not stop. He continued running all the way and all the distance until he got to the point until he came back to the stadium. And at that time, the sun had started to go down. Okay, he had come back to the stadium, and there were just few spectators waiting for him. And as soon as he came into the stadium, there was a loud hush, and then claps, and then applause, and so on and so forth. Because Stephen Akawari, despite the fact that he was injured, despite the fact that at 19 kilometer for a 40-kilometer race, he had fallen down, dislocated his knee, and crushed his ankle, his shoulder blade. He ran the race and ensured that he finished. He did not only finish, he was considered to have finished strong. Now, what an inspiring story. What an inspiring story. Now, what makes this story more spicy is the fact that after the race, I think it was a BBC reporter who walked up to him and interviewed him and asked why he didn't stop the race. And Stephen Akawari had this to say. He said, "My country did not send me 5,000 miles to come and start the race. The country sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." And he finished the race. And in my view, he finished strongly because he passed on the strongest message as far as endurance and resilience is concerned. Check out the story of John Stephen Akawari and you'll find out what I'm talking about. And now from his story, we're able to draw out certain lessons. And those lessons will include the ones that I've outlined here and probably much more. Now, from him, we can learn how to start a race. We can learn that during the race, there will be obstacles. And from how he finished, we can learn the story of endurance. We can learn the story of determination. These were the things that Stephen Akawari did in 1968. In fact, right now, not many people will remember who won the race. Not many people will remember who won the gold medal in that race. But till date, the story of John Stephen Akawari rings a bell in the hearts of people. And up to date, there are people who still make references to how this man endured the race despite all the obstacles and how he finished the race and finished strongly. In my view, he finished strongly. So let's take a look, breaking down the lessons that we're able to draw from John Stephen Akawari's story and try to relate it with our everyday life and how we relate to this event. Okay? That is what I would encourage us to take a look at. And as we take a look at these stories, I'm hoping that we all will learn things, issues that are very critical and very important for every one of us. So, like I said, from Stephen's story, we're able to learn the concept of or the idea of starting every race. The idea of starting every race. I told us from the onset that Stephen Akawari was sent by Tanzania to come and run the marathon race on behalf of his country. He was expected to be one of those who would become a gold or, well, a medalist if he didn't win the gold, but it was expected that he would be on the podium to receive a medal for that race. But incidentally, he had an issue along the line. What are the things that we can learn concerning the fact that you've got to start the race? Many of us are aware of this Chinese proverb that says that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step. John Akawari began the race with a step, just like everybody. In fact, he began the race before he came to Mexico, because to have been able to be found qualified or worthy to come for the race in Mexico, he had prepared himself, he had made himself available to start the race in Mexico. Now, it is important to note that for every one of us, for you to be able to finish strong, you must first of all begin the race. You must start the journey. You must start the journey. And to be able to start the journey, you must plan for the journey. We're using John Stephen Akawari's story as our motivational story for this hour. Now, you would agree with me that John planned for the race. He ran for the qualifiers in his country. He strategically planned to be there, and he made himself available in Mexico. If he hadn't been in Mexico, he would not have run the race, and he would not have ended in the manner that he ended the race. So every one of us must plan our lives. We must plan how to start. We must plan how to finish. And what I'm saying, in fact, this issue is regarding any project that we want to do, and it is regarding every aspect of our lives, every aspect of our lives. And I'm saying also that if you must run or plan the race, you must plan SMART, with that acronym SMART. Okay? With that acronym SMART, you must plan your race in that manner. And of course, while you plan for the race, you must break down into milestones your journey. It would be unwise to attempt to build a house and not sit back and make a plan as to what kind of house you want to build and what materials are required for you to build the house. Everyone who wants to run a race must know, particularly for those who run long distance races, they must be able to make calculations as to what speed to use in the first 10 kilometers, what to use in the next 20 kilometers, and what to use in the next 30, 40 kilometers. You must be able to break your race into milestones. It is breaking the race into milestones that will help you know or identify whether you are coping up and whether you are coping up and meeting your milestones or you are falling behind by the wayside. So I'm saying to you this afternoon or today, regardless of, well, depending on where you are at the moment, I'm saying to you that for you to end your race or for you to end your life or for you to finish life strongly, you must begin a strong race. And for you to begin a strong race, you must be able to plan. And for you to plan, you must plan by that acronym SMART. Your goals must be measurable. Okay, they must be goals that are sustainable, goals that are measurable, goals that you can look back at, make some accountability report upon, and be able to say, this is what I have done. So they must be sustainable goals. Very, very sustainable goals. They must be measurable. Some people want to own land, for example. They do not even know the quantum of land that they want. Some people want to make money. They do not even know what quantity they want. Some people want to travel the world and they are not planning how to even begin the trip. So these things are the things that we must take note of and be able to start our race properly. You must even your goals must be time bound. They must not just be measurable, they must be time bound. You must know that in the next 2 years, this is what I'll do, so that if you are lagging behind in the next 2 years, you already know. Or if you are far ahead of the next 2 years, you already know. And as you do this and break them into milestones, I can guarantee you that regardless of hiccups, regardless of obstacles, you'll be able to make some progress. You'll be able to move on and hopefully achieve the goals that you have set out to achieve. So for you to finish any race well, for you to finish any race properly, you must, your race must be well planned. And like I said, for your race to be well planned, it must be planned with that acronym SMART. Okay? It is important. One other day, I'll take time to break down SMART and to help us with planning. I've done a training on planning. I've done a talk on planning. Again, if you go to my Facebook page, which is Shedrack Bako, you will see that on planning. If you go to Born to Lead channel on YouTube, you'll see also that training on how to plan your time or how to be able to sustain the use of time very, very well. Okay? So these are things that we must take note of. The second thing that we learn from Stephen's story is that issue of determination. Is the issue of determination. You must realize that once Stephen began the race, he didn't know that along the line he would suffer the hiccups that he suffered. He didn't know that he would break or dislocate his knee. He didn't know that he would fall by the wayside or would be tripped off by somebody and fall by the wayside and injure his shoulder. He didn't know. But one thing he knew was that he knew that regardless of how the race went, he was definitely going to end the race and end the race well. He knew it. He knew that regardless of how the race was going to end, he was going to finish the race and finish the race very, very strongly. He knew of that. And so, your second point in trying to finish well is that you must have determination. Determination to finish, determination to see the end of the race and the end successfully. So Stephen Akawari was determined to finish, and he finished. Between him and the person who won the gold medal, there was 1 hour in between the finish line. But he didn't mind. He determined that he was going to finish. And one way that he had to determine that he was going to finish was that he was very optimistic that he would finish. So I encourage every one of us to be optimistic about life, to be optimistic even about situations and circumstances that surround us. Many times we get destabilized by circumstances around us, and before you know it, we already feel discouraged and feel we become less optimistic or become pessimistic entirely in running the race of life. I can tell you this, all right, that only those who are optimistic finish strongly. And you must be optimistic while you run the race of life. You must be optimistic while you set out to accomplish any project that is ever before you. Optimistic people are positive people. Now, it doesn't mean that being optimistic precludes you from getting obstacles along the way. No, but it simply means that when the obstacles arise, you are able to find a way around them or through them to get to your finish point. In fact, optimistic people see every obstacle as a building block in their progress in life. They're able to use every obstacle as a stepping stone to the next. Now, there was a story I heard of 2 donkeys who were thrown into, or who were walking and then fell into a ditch. And that in the ditch, people didn't know they were in the ditch. And the ditch was supposed to be where rubbish bins were thrown or so on. And by the time people started throwing rubbish into the ditch, okay, one of the donkeys complained so much about the rubbish that was being thrown that he just gave up and it was covered by the rubbish. But the second donkey, every time that any rubbish was thrown on him, he just simply shrugged it off and stamped on it. And the more he did that, the higher he was coming, the bigger he was becoming. And the more rubbish that was thrown on him and the more he shrugged it off and stamped upon it, he gained some height until a point where it was able to come to the top of the ditch and walk out of the ditch. Now, that's the difference between optimistic people and people who are pessimistic. John Akawari wasn't pessimistic. He was optimistic. He was determined that in spite of the fact that his knee was injured, he was going to, or dislocated, he was going to finish the race. And one thing that made him determined was the fact that he placed his focus on the end of the race. There was not a time that he considered or concentrated on the things that were happening to him. No, his focus was on the end of the race. You must expect that obstacles would come. You must know that troubles will come along the way in life, every day, every time. In Nigeria at the moment, there are so many obstacles that could just arise from the blues without any plan. Of course, you do not plan for obstacles, but you plan yourself to prepare for obstacles that would arise. And today it is the increase in pump price of fuel. Tomorrow it is the increase in electricity bills. Next tomorrow it is the increase of one thing or the other. There just seems to be so many factors around life that can be discouraging as far as this country is concerned. But you know what? For every one of those things that arise, optimistic people say this is an opportunity to grow. And that is how I see life. Rather than sit down, grumble, and complain, honestly, every situation that arises or that confronts us is an opportunity for you and I to grow. And if you want to finish the race strongly, if you want to finish the race well, you must consider that as an opportunity for your own growth. Never, and I repeat it, never give up because issues and situations arise against you. Never give up. There is not a single human being who has done anything great in this world that didn't encounter troubles. Not a single one. Not a single one. Talk about Nelson Mandela. Imagine that while he was in prison, he got fed up. He stopped being optimistic and entered into some sort of crooked deals and came out of prison. You and I will not have revered him the way that we revere him now. When Martin Luther King Jr. was fighting for the rights of blacks in the United States of America, in fact, while doing what he was doing, they tried to discourage him rather, and they wrote to him a letter. His response to them via a letter turned out to be a masterpiece. Why? Because he even considered them as an obstacle, but also an avenue for his growth. Now we must see life from that perspective. We must never give up. We must consistently be optimistic. Consistently be optimistic. Now, that takes me to the third point regarding how to finish well. The third point suggests that we must be consistent at whatever we do. We must be consistent at whatever we do. Again, this is the picture of John Akawari. If you see it, you would see that again he's been bandaged, but see, he's not stopping. He is moving on. Like I said from the beginning, we're at just 19 kilometers of a 40 kilometers race. This man had fallen down. He had had a slash on his knee. He had dislocated his knee. He had a serious injury on his shoulder. He could have given up. But he was so determined to finish that he consistently ran along the way. There were times that he walked, but one thing was certain, he never stopped. There were times that he probably would have felt discouraged, but one thing was certain, he didn't stop. He didn't allow neither the cheers of people nor the applause of men to stop him, because actually, if he had run just 20 kilometers of that race, perhaps people would have still heard about him. If he had run just 35 kilometers of that race, perhaps people would have still heard about him. But he was so determined to finish the 40 kilometers race that he did. Now, one of the things that helped him was the fact that he was consistent in whatever he did. He walked, he ran, he jogged, whatever it was, he was consistent in moving forward. We must be consistent in moving forward. I just saw something on Instagram lately of a short, I think 3-4 minutes clip that someone sent of of a speaker, a motivational speaker, who shared a story with his audience, and he said a father had a daughter and they were having to drive in the United States of America after a program, and that was her first time to drive with her dad in the car. So, well, of course, it was the dad who was supposed to drive, but he gave her the keys and said she should drive them home. And in driving, a huge storm started. And of course, it started just gradually, and the lady thought to park by the wayside to allow the storm pass by, and then she could continue driving. But the father encouraged her and said, "Keep driving." And as she drove from 1 kilometer to the other, the storm increased to the point that she couldn't see anything in front of her except for the amber lights of vehicles that were parking by the wayside. But the dad encouraged her and said, "Move on, move on." And she did for all the period that she needed to do until they came out of the storm. Now, after the storm, the dad told her, "Pull aside and park." And when she did, she immediately said to the dad, "Oh, I now see why you want me to park." And the dad asked why, and she said, "Well, you want me to thank God that I passed through the storm." And he said, "Well, that's one part of it. But aside that, I want to teach you a fundamental lesson about life." And he asked her to take a look back and ask what she saw behind her. Of course, she said she saw the storm was still raging behind her. And he said, "Take a careful look again." And she did a second time. And he said, "Who are those that you see behind us?" And she said that she saw so many cars parked in the storm behind them. And the dad reeled out that very fundamental story. And he said, "True, this is what I wanted to teach you. If you had stopped in the storm, you would have still been in the storm up till this moment. But because you kept driving through the storm, you have come out of the storm, and you can look at your back and see those who parked in the storm, that they are still in the storm, and the storm is lasting longer over their lives than you who drove through the storm." And I said, what an inspirational story, because that is how we should be in life. There will be storms that will arise, but we've got to be consistent to keep moving forward. There will be issues that will confront us, but we've got to be consistent to keep moving forward. Always look ahead of you and never look behind you, except if you want to learn a lesson or ask a question about the things that transpired or happened behind you. But your gaze, your focus must always be ahead of you. And one way to be able to keep looking forward is to establish a daily routine. Establish a daily routine that once you wake up, your life automatically fits into that routine and helps you to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish daily. For me, one of the routines that I have is that by the first day of the week, every Sunday, I try as much as possible to plan the week. And having planned the week, every morning when I wake up, one of the routines that I have is to go check what is on my calendar and follow through. Okay? There are days that I fail to do that. That's the truth. But there are days that, so many of them, of course, that because I have planned, these things are registered in my heart and my head, and that even without looking at the calendar, I can, to near perfection, tell you the things that will follow in place on my calendar. That's a routine I have established. I've also established a routine that when I wake up, even lying on my bed, I meditate. I meditate. I ask questions about what the day holds for me. I try to be spiritual, so I go read my Bible to understand what is ahead of me and how to be able to confront situations as they arise. I have a part and parcel of my daily routine is that I take out some time to do some little exercises. All these are part of my daily routine, and they help me to be stable, they help me to be consistent. As part of my daily routine, I even make sure that I do not take dinner later than 7 p.m. All these team up to make who I am. Okay? I haven't gotten to the place where I truly want to be, but I'm moving each day of my life to get to the point. And I'm hoping and believing that I'll finish strong. So, in finishing strong, you've got to even endure stress. My friend, without stress, there are certain things you will never know. There are certain things you will never comprehend and understand. And please be positive when stress rises against you. Be positive. And when I say be positive, I mean know that whatever stress that arises against you will not last forever. No stress lasts forever. Every stress has an expiration date. Because it started one day, it will end one day, certainly. And of course, as you consistently establish a daily routine, you've got to be very creative to ensure that this daily routine plus the stress that come along your way do not stop you. Rather that they are exciting for you, they are exciting for you to follow through life. Okay? So you've got to be very creative in going about your daily. Please ensure that nothing stops you along the way. Nothing detracts you from the journey that you have set your heart to follow through to. Nothing should distract you from the things that you want to do, even as you move along life. Now, not everybody, okay? Not everybody is determined to be consistent. There are so many people who do things just the way that haphazardly. I can share from my life that any day that I do not plan properly and do things haphazardly, I just mix up my entire life. I mess up my life. Please be consistent in what you do. The next that I will encourage you to have is to find a mentor. This is so important. Find a mentor. Find someone who can coach you, someone more experienced than you, who can coach you. John Stephen Akawari that you see here had a coach. The coach motivated him. The coach taught him what to do during the race. And of course, perhaps because he didn't want to disappoint his coach, he kept on running even when he had dislocated his knee. He kept on moving. He didn't want to disappoint his nation. He didn't want to disappoint his people. He didn't want to disappoint his coach. He kept moving until he got to the finish line. Now, it is important to get a coach. The reason being that coaches will help you circumnavigate through the obstacles of life. Coaches will help you to grow. Coaches will help you to know things that you never knew of. Coaches will help you to stand strong when trying situations come. With coaches, you can find a shoulder to cry on. You can find a shoulder to rest upon. Coaches will also help you to gain insight. They will give you good, consistent advice that can help you to overcome whatever situation that you encounter in life. And of course, good mentors will also help you to gain connection in places that you hitherto may not have had connections to enter into. Every good coach should be able to hold you by the hand, to lead you along the way, to bring you to the bank of the river, not only to the bank of the river, but to carry you across the river and to allow you march on from that point. In life, you must find mentors. And finding mentors is a critical and important aspect of life. Again, I've done a teaching on mentoring, not mentoring as a whole, but I've brought in mentoring as part of the way to leave a legacy behind. Go to my Facebook page, Shedrack Bako, and check that. How to leave a legacy behind. Go also to the Born to Lead channel on YouTube, and please subscribe while you are there, and also place a like on it, on whatever videos that you see on Born to Lead on YouTube. I would appreciate that very well. So, in trying to finish strong, you must get a mentor. Again, I've had these consistent cries and complaints from younger persons who say that they do not find elderly people who they can relate with. There are so many that you can. I had the privilege to be somewhere on Sunday, and after my discussion with a number of people, someone just basically approached me and said he liked how I talked or how I preached on the pulpit, and that how I preached on the pulpit, and that he wanted me to help him through life. He wanted me to help him through life, and I gladly did, or at least gladly acknowledged that, and gladly I gave him my phone number, and gladly received it, and said we will keep in touch and in contact. That's quite important. There are a whole lot of other people that I mentor, people who look up to me. I haven't hit perfection yet, but I am confident that the things I have learned in life, I'm able to pass to a younger generation who are able to hold on to these things and are able to run with them. In fact, my idea of mentoring is to be able to show people where you have failed so that they will stand stronger in those places and not fail. For you to finish strong, you must get a mentor. It is so important. It is so necessary that you get a mentor, that I will say it again and again and again, that you will require to get a mentor over your life and over whatever you do in life. To finish strong, besides getting a mentor, I would also suggest that you get an accountability partner. An accountability partner. Who are accountability partners? Your peers, so to speak, or they could even be your mentor serving as your accountability partner. Someone that you can report to, someone you can be accountable to. If you are married, I suggest that your spouse becomes your accountability partner. Whether he or she studied the same course with you or not, I suggest that your loved ones become your accountability partner. Someone you can be open to, someone you can be clearly blunt to, someone you can tell the truth. When you have goofed, when you have made a mistake, you are able to walk up to the person and say, I failed in this area. Get an accountability partner, someone who is a close friend, a relation of yours. Someone that you can be open and sincere to. Someone whom, once you have had an idea, you are able to confidently share your idea with the person, and the person will not castigate you or look down or be judgmental over your life. Someone who, once you are in trouble and you are able to explain to the person fits himself or herself into your shoes and is able to even understand how you feel and is able to say to you certain truths, certain facts without being judgmental. Of course, you may ask for John Stephen Akaori, who was his accountability partner. His nation was, his coach was. And of course, so you see, this is a slight difference between the coach and the accountability partner. In his case, if he had stopped at the 19th kilometer where he fell down and dislocated his knee, his coach would not have blamed him. No, because everyone that runs a race understands that once you fall and dislocate your knee, you should not continue with the race. But because he had some accountability partners, people who will hold him accountable, John Stephen Akawari finished the race so that he can explain himself, or without explaining himself, the people will understand him and know that he did his best to be able to finish what he had started. So this is what I'm saying. Ensure that you have accountability partners that will help you to be able to stand even as you run your race in life. And like I said earlier, when I talk about your race in life, I'm not just talking about running a marathon. I'm not talking about getting married. I'm talking about every aspect of your life. You've got to finish strong in every aspect of your life. Be so consistent that you finish strong in every aspect of your life. Again, be so determined that you will finish strong. Let me do a recap. I said earlier on that one, for you to finish your life strong and well, number one, you must start, because every journey begins with a step. There are so many people who are afraid to even do things. And by the way, you will finish in any case your life. You will finish one way or the other, anything that you begin. And my encouragement is that because you will finish one way or the other, anything that you would begin, my encouragement is that determine to finish strong. Determine to finish strong. That way, okay? That way, you will finish life on a strong note. These are the few things that I've got to say. You must begin the race. And having begun the race, you must be determined to finish the race. And having determined to finish the race, you must be consistent to run the race. And in gaining consistency, get a mentor who can mentor you as to how to run through the cycles of life. And finally, get an accountability partner, someone who can hold your hand and ask you questions when you least expect. Someone who can say to your face certain things that will not get you scared, but rather endear you to the person, no matter how harsh the talk is. My desire for every one of us is strong. That's my desire. My hope for every one of us is that we finish strong. Sadly, not everybody finishes strong. Not everybody finishes strong. That's a huge, sad commentary about life. We must learn to be able to finish strong. We must determine to want to finish strong. I'd like to say thank you to everyone. Salatu Dorothy Haruna, thank you for your comments. Thank you for reaching out. And then several others who quietly watched, thank you also for reaching out. I would make an effort to continue with the Saturday broadcast at 1 p.m. Therefore, let me encourage you to be a part and parcel of this First, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Be consistent in following this broadcast. Thank you for being available. Make yourself available also on Saturday if it is possible. Now, I am planning a Zoom webinar, and I'll encourage you also, for those of you who are my friends on Facebook, those of you who follow this channel on YouTube and follow me on other channels, please do well to look at the flyers on those channels and subscribe for the Zoom webinar. It will come up in about 2 weeks' time. I had one just last weekend on Saturday, and it turned out to be a very wonderful time with a number of friends I've not seen for a long time who registered and became a part and parcel of the webinar. Now, I want to teach the qualities of good leaders on the 26th, and I'm hoping that because every one of us has been called to lead, even though not many of us understand that, not many of us are already occupying the place of leadership that has been created for us in life, I would like to take that opportunity to teach us the qualities that should position us appropriately to function as leaders, whether we occupy a leadership position or not, whether we have a managerial office or occupy a leadership office or not. Every one of us can perform those qualities to the extent that we will be recognized by the world. Again, you would see on the scroll bar numbers going past. The last number is a number that we would use for WhatsApp also, and you see the flyers on that WhatsApp, on the status of that WhatsApp number. Once again, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your time today, and I pray that you have a fruitful week ahead of you, and God bless. See you next week, God willing. Thank you so much.